Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Jonathan. So Arryve, just kind of a real quick recap. We're, of course, a point of sale, or really as we call point of service company. And that's because really we're all in one. So it's not just your standard point of sale, it's all the other features, the e-commerce, the built-in loyalty features, whether you're doing drinks, we can do inventory, food tracking, even by the ounce. I mean, literally, like if you have kegs, that kind of thing. We're based out of Boulder, Colorado. So that is where we started. We are a startup, but we've been around for 5 years. We've got close to about 1,000 different operations around the entire United States, including quite a few in the Twin Cities area there as well. But yeah, so I'll kind of get into kind of a micro demo, I think is really sort of the goal, just a super high level of kind of some of the high things. And, anyone that wants to ask questions too, I normally do these one-on-one, so I'm used to it being really personalized and interactive. So feel free to, you too, Jonathan, ask as much as you want to see. So not sure if I'm kind of pinned just yet, but before I want to get to sharing my screen, I do want to kind of point out this is what I'll be demoing on right here. So we are an Android-based system. Now, if this is unfamiliar to you as a point of sale, when I say Android, I mean only on the things you're running the credit cards on. Now, you can still use the back end from any device. Like I personally am on a Mac. You could use smartphones of any kind as well, but if you're looking for maybe a slightly more conventional point of sale, really all you're doing is putting a tablet in a stand, right? And you have a card reader. Now there's cash drawers and printers are kind of the other types of operations equipment that you could have. You can have mobile devices, right? These are just phones. I've mounted the readers to the back. So that's more of that floating or table service. And we additionally even have what's referred to as open tab. You may or may not have seen things like that before. That's kind of the new contactless thing, right? You could have a QR code, for example, maybe on a little table tent, maybe taped on a card to a specific table. Well, that's clearly aware of what table it is. But the point is, any guest with a smartphone could simply look at that, and then place an order and you'd know right where to deliver it to. Now, as an operator, you have the ability to use that or not, to continue to use the regular point of sale, counter service, table service, floating service, self-service, all at once, even if you are so inclined. That's kind of the thing. We're flexible. We keep the same approach for every single one of our clients, and that's because we actually consult with them and build it out directly to your tailored needs. And we'll talk a little bit more about that too. So kind of the first thing I want to do, I think, is share my screen here. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And Jonathan, interrupt me. I want to make sure I'm seeing kind of this purple background. Are you guys seeing that? Yeah, okay. Yep. Great. So this is just the back end of my point of sale device that I'm sharing here. So what we want to look at is that app on the bottom left. It's called Arryve Service, so that we can get in and give a little mini tour here. So kind of the first thing that you might kind of see is something like this, really. This is, of course, going to be, clock in tools, that kind of thing. So all the standard features that you would come to expect with any point of sale, whatever it is you guys are using, we pretty much have all of those, and they are all included too. So I'm not going to obviously touch on everything. I mean, everybody knows how these work in general. I'll kind of just give a quick overview and focus on some things that are a little unique to us. So I'm going to clock in here, and now I'm logged in as well. And actually, before I show you some of that stuff, I'll just go over a quick little background here, since I know our layout's a little unconventional. So first off, if you look at the top right corner where it says Bruce, that's the user that I am. Now I am the manager, Bruce, in my little fake operation today. So we'll be doing that. And I'm actually working in the brew pub. Top left corner there is the venue that I am in. Now, a venue is basically our way of compartmentalizing your business into its different areas, right? It's if you have a bunch of different rooms. It's if you have different types of functions, like a bar, a main room, a private event room, a patio, right? Clearly, those are different spatially. You may or may not have certain options available to others. There may or may not be different pricing. And I do mean that in the sense that this could be external businesses or places, like perhaps a festival or a separate food truck, or of course your online component that's going to be different too. And whether you're doing pickup, curbside delivery, or shipping, we got you covered on all those, and we can look a little bit on that too. On the very top middle, we've got some green indicators. We are a cloud-based point of sale. You can see that little green cloud, I'm connected, which means it does want the internet. So you don't need any fancy servers or hardware or anything like that, as long as you have an internet connection. I mean, Wi-Fi, of course, is ideal, but these do just run fine off of any data connection at all. So if you have a hotspot on your phone, that's going to be more than sufficient. There even is an offline mode if your internet does go down, however. It's simply a setting that allows you to continue to function while offline, meaning you can still start and take new tabs or collect payments or print tickets to your kitchen. That's all local network. Basically do everything. And then, it doesn't force you to go cash only. And once it's reconnected to the internet, it can sync everything back up to all of the devices. If you have more than one, of course. I'm on the staff menu. If you're kind of seeing this little orange menu bar at the top tab, inventory, staff, order, it's really just a collection of settings and things like that. I don't necessarily want to get too carried away with anything here. Of course, limited on time. But if you look at the very bottom, where it's talking about tips and different types of closeouts, individual service closeouts, whether you're doing, that or multiple venues. The point I want to make is however it is you do your tip strategy, whether it's like you have servers individually, whether you pool it, do you pool it by the hour? Is it hours worked? Is it based on shift? Do you donate portion to charity? Do you split it with the kitchen versus front of house? Whatever it is you do. I mean, we've seen this some 60 odd ways. We can do every single one of those things automatically. So we just have reports that'll tell you the math, do it for you. And I can show you what some of those look like. If you're big on data, we've got a lot of that. So I'm going to jump on over to my next screen though for now. Talk briefly about inventory. When I use the word inventory, I'm referring from a point of sale perspective to finished goods. Okay, so this is going to be everything you would want to sell. Of course, it's going to be all of your food and menu options. It's going to be drinks too, whether it's for here or for to go, beer, that kind of thing as well. Merchandise, gift cards, even anything that you could conceivably collect money for would of course live in the inventory. There's kind of two major types, and I'm just going to mention both of them here. One is the more obvious unit-based inventory, which is basically saying the quantity I have on hand. Oh, I've got the number of widgets, like this many salmon specials today, or this many burgers that I could do, or of course, this many t-shirts of that size. That's what those numbers are highlighted in yellow. You can adjust the inventory from the point of sale if you have permission, like a manager would, or you could do that from a back end if you prefer. Now it is depletion based, so it's always going to count that down, let you know what you have on hand. It would automatically kick or 86 itself if it were to run out. It does have a real-time synchronization to your online store, your web pages, any things like that. Maybe you're using a TV menu if you've ever seen those before, a digital menu board. We have one of those built in as well. It would update all of those things in real time. Okay, so if you just sold the last special of a certain thing in-house, it, say sold out on your website or remove it, that kind of thing, and vice versa. There is a nice little kill switch too if you're a manager too. Notice this like available in Kick. I can simply turn off an item from all of my menus simply by the press of a button if I want to. You could even do that to your entire online store if you want, like you're getting kind of overloaded, or we deal with that like limitations too. Maybe you're having like a special release, a limited time offer, those kind of things, got you covered in a lot of ways. I want to scroll down and mention another thing too, because I know Nate, you're on here and your distillery, you're doing all the craft focused stuff too. So let's talk about something like draft beer, but this could be any type of vessel, right? Like a keg, a bright tank, even a fifth or a handle, right? That's containing liquid. And as you know, those last substantial amount of time. So the logic is all kind of the same here. And so what I mean by that is when I'm listing my draft beers right here, these are like the beers or vessels of, product that I have on tap available right now. If they're not red, they've already been tapped or opened. And what we actually do, of course, is you have different sizes that you can offer. I mean, right, if you've ever ordered beer, there's pints and growlers and flights and tasters and tulips and whatever you want. Additionally, same thing with like spirits. Is a single shot, double shot? Is there multiple cocktail, whatever it is, that kind of situation. Well, we do ounce tracking as well automatically. So as you pour and serve your guests, we're going to attribute those ounces and dollars of that size of that product back to that specific vessel. So that does mean, of course, you're getting real-time inventory depletion in the measurement of ounces. So you're able to kind of always know, what those vessels have for you automatically. It helps with forecasting, when it was opened, when it's about to run out, because you can see how much you sold out of it. When it does run out, you know how long it took. If it's not 100%, which it rarely ever is, especially ever in kegs, it does factor in your loss for you automatically, right? And by that I mean, if there's 1984 ounces theoretical and you only sold 1900, that's something like a loss of maybe 5% or whatever, right? So we're doing all of that for you so that you have those numbers automatically. So that's kind of the story on some of this on inventory. If there's any questions, you guys can jump in. But what I'm going to do next is jump on over to the tab screen.
I do have a question.
Yeah, you bet.
Are we going to talk about customer tracking at some point?
We absolutely will.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'll get to that shortly for you with like loyalty.
Okay, thank you.
Definitely. So you kind of have two major options of how you could track longer term guests. Now there's really like, let me even back that up. If you're a quick service restaurant or anything like that, where people buy at the point of interaction, kind of like a deli would be, those kinds of coffee shops, walk right up, you pay, and that's the one time you interact with the service. Now that I would just ring things in, and I'm going to show you that in 1 second too. The other two kinds of strategies are more like table service or tab-based service. So I'm on the tab screen right now. That's where, think of bars, those kinds of operations, breweries, everything. People come up, they start a tab, and they're going to probably order more than once over the duration of their stay. That's why you can start tabs. It's the tracking of that individual. It's this list format here. You could do the same thing with maps, right? Table service. Somebody sits down, they're there, they order, maybe they hang out for a while, orders potentially more, they pay at the end, that kind of thing, right? So when payment is different from the time of exchange, you can do those kinds of things. Now, obviously, if you've ever used any point of sale with a map before, it's pretty intuitive. You click on the place that you want to start a tab and ring things in, and I can do that. If you're doing the list format, it's sort of the same thing. It's the exact same user interface, actually. They're interchangeable. You can switch back and forth as a matter of preference because they can affect the same place. Notice I have like the name and then the table number. For example, this first one, Cade 33 is where he's at. You can also see additional information, that kind of thing. Now, if I wanted to start a new guest, meaning order something for somebody who has not been interacted with, I can just click the new button on the bottom, and then I can ring things in. Now, if it's pretty basic, like some draft beer, I can click there and I can click what he wants. So what we do is we organize the categories, going back, these blue areas. You can call these whatever you want. It's just your way of organizing your menus, right? And you can do this differently based on different venues even. But back to draft beer, I can see the products on the left side. Left to right are the sizes. If you have more than 4 sizes, it'll show those too. You just click on the name or dots. You can have descriptions in here too for your staff. I think, ingredient list, whatever, right? How to kind of describe things. So it's a little quick reference. I even have attributes and other things. In order to ring any item in or prepare to ring it in, all I do is click, the green buttons, and they're going to pop up on the top. So kind of going on what's up there, those orange little ones on the far left side, that's just your position or your seat number or your sub tab. Basically, they're all sort of the same thing. Totally optional feature if it's not necessary to your business. Green plus can increase the quantity. Then you've got the quantity, the size, the name of the product, price of the size, price of that row, and the red button will remove one or even delete something entirely. Now, the only other thing you might do, like if you are maybe doing table service and you started it from the list like I did, or if you're one of those places where you give somebody a number, right? Like they've got a sandwich, you got to make it, and then you got to bring it out to them. Well, you could give them that number with that black box in the top right. And this doesn't necessarily have to be a number, of course, but it's just the location indicator. Okay, so, then I could assign that as well. If the guest is paying at this exact minute in time and I need to collect payment right now as I'm sending in the order, I could clearly click that exact dollar button if I'm taking cash. The quick credit card, you swipe a card. If you want to start a tab, for example, like meaning we're going to leave this open, I could just hit send and send this through. because it's technically starting a tab without a card on file, right? It's the name of the table if you see table 42 up there. Or if you want to start a tab with a card on file as well, you can do that. You could click on the top half of the screen and swipe it. I'll just do that one there. Whoops, I did a bad swipe. I should slow that down. Let me try that one more time. All right, there it is. And then I got the card encrypted on file. And by the way, we're one of those point of sales where you never need to hold on to cards. Okay, so if you are doing that kind of situation where you start tabs with cards, you swipe it and return it. Guests can also, of course, start tabs themselves if you want through an Arryve app that's free, as well as any QR code, or you could do Apple Pay and various other things. But swiping is usually the easiest to demonstrate on one of these demos. So anyway, I'm just going to send that through. The minute I hit send, of course, this is where if I'm like a bartender or something like that, I turn around, pour the drinks, hand it to them. If I'm the kitchen, I'm probably back there. It would probably print up a little ticket. If you're using printers, you'd see it, you know what to get to work on, where to deliver it. Of course, we do support KDSs and that kind of thing too, if you want like a digital screen. Can't quite show that, but we also even have a miniature KDS Lite, it's called, built into that, you know, every point of sale. Now, this is really more of a digital receipt. It's that order menu up there. So the theory is I hit done, right, once I put that out, or I take the piece of paper ticket, you know, get rid of that once I've delivered the food or the drink, that kind of thing. So you really do whatever you want with that. So that's kind of, again, the basics of some simple ordering. If I want to revisit a tab, let's just say, I could click on it, brings up a running tab. Here I've got a bunch of selections. I'm going to go over a couple things here real quick too. Details allows you to see what happened against it before. You could reorder, right? Like if, again, you are a craft establishment, you get that, give me another round. So you don't, and maybe you're a different employee, right? I didn't deal with this person. Well, now I could just hit reorder. I don't have to go hunt and peck or figure out what it was that they had or ask them or any of that kind of thing. Other types of items, let me show you a few more things. I clearly just did draft beer. Since we are craft built originally, we of course have all sorts of fun things, and I got to show you that, things related to that industry, like flights too, right? You can have pre-programmed flights like a seasonal flight. You could have a pick your own flight, like a taste, think of tasters, right? These are a bunch of little tasters, fixed price. You can have variable prices. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be just for, you know, flights and that kind of thing. The mechanism here can be a combo pricing, right? Like a burger is X, fries is this, but when you get them together, it automatically charges a different price, that kind of thing. It's a pretty smart system with the ability to do all kinds of pricing arrangements. Of course, on flights and stuff like this, though, it is tracking the inventory within the respect of each product. Like the sub-assembly there tracks that. So I am getting, you know, my kegs or whatever, it's tracking those ounces always. Let's get into food, obviously. So basic things like an appetizer, if you just ring that in, like fries, your staff knows how to make that. It's just going to pop up. If you're doing something a little more nuanced, like a cheeseburger, it might ask questions. You know, burger, okay, what temp would you like it? Right, so the questions, we call those force modifiers, user prompts. You can have as many of these as you want. You can have them all in a row, like I did with this build your own pizza. So I know how to, you know, do the build order of the pizza, or you can just have all these green buttons up on one big screen and hunt and pack if you prefer. Now, what about those kinds of guests that order something really particular, right? How do we deal with those? Well, let's say I'm doing this seitan sandwich. Let's say my guest wants to order bacon and they want it gluten-free and they want to hold the onions and they don't want the mayo and they want to hurry up really quick. Okay, well, I can click on that item. And now I got an add no sub. Notice we have a keyboard. It's a predictive texting algorithm. So if I say B for bacon, it's pretty accurate, guesses that. You know, no O for onion, it's right there. MA, I give it a couple letters. The more letters you feed it, the more accurate it gets. It's basically a Boolean search, or in other words, Google. Our co-founders were Google engineers for like 15 years, so they kind of brought over a lot of their techie features. I'm going to put a hangry. Now I'm doing this because I want to point out we do have a little nice color coding system too. Green things will denote an upcharge, and that will print on kitchen tickets, so your kitchen knows that your front of house actually charged extra for the bacon. It's $2 here. You know, black is a very clear removal, lots of exclamation points like no onion. Brown things are dietary preferences like allergies, right? Vegan, gluten-free, whatever. And the gray ones are going to be kind of your C server. If you put in a note that doesn't match what an algorithm type of thing would be, right? Like ingredients or gluten-free, those kind of suggestions, it will always go to the top. It will make it invisible to the guest receipt as well. So it's an internal only. So, if you wrote something kind of ridiculous on there, it's only going to be for your staff and kitchen and never show up on a guest receipt. So the point is it's kind of a smarter system than you might think. But that's maybe enough on the ordering. I definitely want to talk quickly about some of these other features like what Jonathan mentioned here. So I'll just send this on through. And again, if I have drinks and food at once, drink could print to my bar or whatever. If that's where you make it. Food could print to my kitchen. I mean, we've even seen places like food halls, like, 8 kitchens at once. I mean, that kind of thing theoretically. And you can order on all these things separate. They can be separate businesses even. And you can like distribute the funds, but it's like one tab for the guest experience if you want to do things that way. So there's really a lot of customization with Arryve. And again, I'm just high leveling some things. Our approach is we build each point of sale experience out for each one of our customers exactly the way that they want it. So it's very much like a one-to-one type of thing, not like a have fun and figure it out. Not at all. All right. So some of these other features, if I click on a tab, I think that's important to mention. I mean, we went over orders details, tags. Those are basically internal notes. If you cut someone off or they're part of the industry and they get a discount, or, they're part of a private event, you're going to group it together. I don't know. It's basically a little like a note, really. You can have features for these too. You can write whatever you want, by the way. Those are just the ones I made. Another kind of nifty thing is discounts, comps, right? You know about this. Do you want to do what kind of comp, right? Whatever it is you want. Percentages off, dollars off, buck off for that, happy hour, which can be automatic pricing. So 3 to 5 apps are half off, or whatever, pints are $2 off, weekdays, whatever. You can charge different prices during different time constraints. I'll just do a basic industry discount, 10%. It's just going to pop up, turn green, show you what it was, tab on that tab. Discount top, balance, bottom, reason, industry. You have the ability to put in optional notes as well. Maybe you want to track the name of the, the place, that kind of thing. Oh yeah, because those show up in reports too. Again, you can have all that information there. If you poured the wrong item and maybe just want to zero it out, do 100% discount like this oops one or something. Turned yellow, and that is because you can restrict permission on that too. So if you want to do like manager only, where they can put in an override code, you can do that kind of stuff too. All right, merging and splitting. Merge is when you combine separate things. Like if I started an order here, started an order there, or tab, right? I can combine them later. I could even combine like 20 things at once if I needed to. Okay, we're gonna take this Margaret's tab, combine it into my one on the bottom. When I hit merge, top goes away, bottom becomes bigger. And just for the kicks here, I'm gonna now split this out too. If I'm splitting something out like this, I could split them out evenly by seat number. If I hit seats or subtab, I can do an even split by hitting even, 3 ways. Or I could even do this manual split by hitting the blue plus check and simply tapping on the things that you want to move and then tapping where you want it to be. So it's pretty intuitive to simply tap items and tap where you want it to go. You can even break up items into pieces by holding them and then selecting the tabs you want to split it across. So it's pretty robust there. I'm just gonna hit done here. Gives you a quick review. We're gonna hit split. These are all separate tabs or checks, if you will, right? They're different now. One on the bottom is my original one. I could rename these from here. I could do whatever I want, swipe a new card. I could pay them out, obviously, print out the paper, have them sign it, that whatever you're doing, you can do all those. I'm just going to hit pay real quick, show you the payment options as we close this one out. Of course, you've got big 3 up there, credit card, cash, and gift cards. If you guys do already, of course, have a point of sale and you have things like gift cards, half of our customers are people that switch over to us. Okay, so we can actually implement, those existing balances. You don't lose your gift cards. We work with, I mean, basically, if it's like a standard magnetic swipe, as long as it's not something we've never heard of before, so 99% chance it's going to work just fine. We can implement those almost all the time. But I'll just close this one out with credit card. Again, we're big on taking cabs in the craft industry, right? Because if someone got drunk and forgot to pay, this is how you close it out because you have the card on file. You could print, obviously, give them paper, sign it on that way. You could flip this around. Maybe you hand them the device if they're doing this from their phone. Because remember, guests can close out themselves if you allow them to. Then, you know, they'd see this as well. But basically, I've got it all there. I've got like tip suggestions you can put in. One of my favorite features, if I forget to tip, we've got a guilty window. It'll just pop up again. So, you know, you can ask twice if you want. I will now leave this tip. And then I'm at the final closeout screen. I could print my receipt if I enabled that. No receipt. Email receipt allows you to even sign up to, maybe you have a newsletter. Like, sign me up. That's what the little checkbox is. And then at Jonathan's point, sort of this customer retention and loyalty. So that's kind of how we do that. It's called Insider. And so we're big on protecting consumer privacy by default. But if they've opted in, and a good way to get someone to opt into anything, of course, is a loyalty program. Obviously, there's incentives for you to do this. So let me give an example of what this may potentially look like, because it's a pretty powerful program. Let's say, you know, you would say so-and-so operation, restaurant, brewery, that kind of thing. And, you know, you'd have your own background and text here describing what your program is. What most people do is some kind of general rewards, right? I'm sure you've seen that, like Chipotle, get enough points and get a free burrito or whatever, or buy 10 drinks, get your 11th one free, like Starbucks, or basically some kind of spend more money and earn more credit, right? That's the one major strategy. The other kind is you can do built-in sort of ongoing type of rewards. Like maybe you decided to do during this month, everybody who, you know, has a certain number of points or just is a member at all gets like a buck off an appetizer or something. You can also do offers. Okay, that's sort of the other, and you can do all of the above, by the way. You can, it's unlimited. I'm just giving examples. Offers are where you might write a custom email like, hey, everyone, come on into, you know, 11 Wells Distilling here during the month of May. And if you have 500 points or you bring a buddy, you can put your contingency in there, then we'll give you your first round half off. Okay, so they got this email because they signed up and they're like, wow, that sounds really good. I really want to try that new, you know, spirit that they've made, or this new sandwich or whatever. And so they could click the link in the email that's like, I'm interested. Well, what happens is our system knows all this, and it's smart enough to recognize people the next time they come in, which would mean if they came in and you started a tab, or they swiped that card, or they just paid and swiped that card, it recognized that card. It turn it orange if they were sticking around, or turn it orange period. Same like a member on that. And then it would pop up, and, you know, if they had any discounts, it would alert you. Oh, well, welcome back to our establishment. I see that you've purchased your 10th drink, so your 11th one is free. Would you like to use that today? That kind of thing, you know, so recognition, tracking. And if you want to look on the back end, and I could jump over to that too, you're getting all these deeper analytics and, you know, preferences, how long they stay, when they come in, of all your most loyal guests, basically. So the theory is, right, to understand your most regular important guests, kind of that Pareto principle, because they drive so much of your revenue usually, and market to them, right? Like incentivize them. And that's all going to be built into your point of sale. Now, if you're wondering, well, what about, I'm not seeing this tab turn orange, or what if they use a different card or a different email, or they just want to pay cash? Well, I can click on the name, and when you're doing this on the new tab too, when you click on the top of the screen, you get this, but I'm just going to hit this Insider, and that's where you could look up their name, email, or phone. And what it will do then is pull them up, and if they have a card this time that they used, it will add that to the like little remembering, and it'll remember. Yeah, see, it turned it orange. I don't have any perks on this guy. I haven't earned any rewards yet, but notice how it's orange and it says member. It's a little more bold at this point too. But yeah, if I had a benefit pop up and say, hey, you know, you've earned whatever, that kind of thing. So that's kind of it on maybe the high level point of sale here. I mean, we did talk about there's a loyalty program, obviously, you know, and that tracking, comping, splitting, ordering. I mean, I think all the basics I hopefully went over reasonably well. So what I would like to do real quick then is, if next is even jump over to two other things super fast. And that's to show you kind of the built-in e-commerce portion that's tied in directly to your point of sale. So again, every feature is included with Arryve if you want it. So a lot of times, you know, people, they'll have a website already, you have Facebook, all this stuff. You can have a little online ordering store that we have. It look somewhat similar to this, where it's some like Arryve dot whatever you are. I'm in the fake brewery one, so it's my back end, not real. But basically, you get a URL, okay? So you can kind of like drive people to that, like from your email, from your social media, from your existing website, like when they want to order. And you can do the for here ordering, like if they are there, there's pickup, curbside delivery, and there is also a shipping ability. If you're doing that, maybe you just ship merch, I don't know. Or even there would be like that ability for them to start their own tabs as well if it's like a QR code. But I'll just show you the basics. It's a pretty simple online platform. I mean, our big thing was functionality. We built this out with the start of COVID, uploaded something like 500 establishments in a weekend. Seriously, everyone pulled the long hours, middle of March last year. But it's included, okay? So there's no extra fees. Again, can't say that enough. So, it's a kind of a nice thing. Now, I'm going to just go through super quick. I'll get a couple items. Again, I normally am a brewery operation, so I'll get a beer here. When I click on anything, of course, it pops up, shows you descriptions, the sizes. We'll get one of these. If I'm doing some food items, similar to the way they work in the point of sale, it would ask questions if needed. I could put in notes, no feta, whatever. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward thing. If you're doing something like a little more advanced, like this build your own pizza, you could have a series of questions. I'll pick my cheese and whatever, and I don't know, that's enough for now. And then of course I can go to checkout. We're gonna just go through this. I could tip, donate, whatever it is I'm doing here. And then kind of on this screen, now this is very customizable. Obviously there's a lot of customization to this, where you could have your instructions, the information you need to collect, of course. If you're selling alcohol, it does require this. We'll just put something in here. And you can have options like to text. You can have like pick your pickup time, like ASAP, Thursday at 4 p.m., Friday at 4 p.m., that kind of stuff. So again, drop downs, user prompts, open fields, whatever you're doing here. Very customizable. And then of course the final thing would be payment. I'm not going to do this right now, but if I put my card in and just hit pay, as a customer, I get a confirmation page and email. Now, as an establishment, because people always wonder, am I going to know about this, or I'm going to miss this? It'll show up on your back end. You can get an email or several emails to whatever accounts you want. Your point of sale can make a ding if you want it to. It'll print. You're going to hear that printer. Food will print where it's supposed to, drinks, that kind of thing, have all that information. It'll show up on your order screen. If you have a KDS, it shows up there, shows up on the back end, and it, of course, shows up with all the other like tabs or orders. They look different. Says online, it's different color, pretty obvious. So it's impossible to miss those things as they come in, and it's immediately they'll come in like that. So that's kind of the deal there. This portion of the back end, I don't necessarily know if we have too much to get in here, but I want to just make a couple quick points. If you're big on data, you're going to like what we have. Okay, so I've got, the real-time information. You can access this from any phone or device or thing that has the internet, charts and graphs, all that kind of stuff, dynamic. You can filter by category, whatever you would want. If I want to look at reports, notice how I've got these groups of reports over here by category. I did mention there's about 120 of them. So you can literally have whatever it is you're looking for. Now, the way all reports work, just to kind of give you an idea, at least under the reporting section, is these are basically spreadsheets, okay? So you always get the name of it. You can see, okay, what it's supposed to pull. You can use some filters if you want in order to query a report. Like I want to check my draft beer again. I'm big on my craft stuff here. I like that. And then maybe I'll pull the date range. So again, this report, this specific one is saying item sales by dollar volume of sales, similar to draft beer. Okay, so what this really is saying is ranking your best-selling items. We'll see if this thing actually generates and pulls up here. So just to give you an idea of the data, like I said, spreadsheets, you could export those. Notice here I get to see my best-selling item, and this can be food, obviously. I just pulled it for drinks. You can see how many times during the time period it's sold, meaning orders, the revenue that particular item's generated, the amount it sold. Now, in the case of beverage, that's the measurement of ounces, right? So you get the number of ounces you sell, the comp value, average price. I really love how it shows size breakdowns. That's really big for our friends in the craft industry. right? Because you wonder, how are my customers ordering this? What if I offer them samples? Can I see how much they like that? Yeah, you can look at those ratios and things like that too. So we could go on and on about reports, other features too, just because it was something that Jonathan liked. I want to just point out kind of my insider members here. Like what kind of information can I look at them? Well, this is kind of an example. If there's a rewards program, you typically drive that through points, right? They earn points, which can be redeemed for credit or whatever. How long they stay, average visits, when they come in, purchase distributions, and their check numbers. Every single check that ever occurs in our system is saved, okay, forever. And you own all your own data. So we have people that have been with us 5 years. You can still look up anything you want. There's great search features to find it. It's your data for life, whether you stick with Arryve or not. So I want to talk brass tacks. What does all this kind of stuff cost? Well, we make it pretty simple. One thing with any point of sale is there's hardware costs. Now, if you already have some hardware like a point of sale, then you can use a good amount of these. Cash drawers and printers are pretty standard in the industry. Like I mentioned, we are going to be Android based. So at a minimum, what you would need is new card readers. You would have to buy card readers new. You can't reuse your old ones. And then if you do have Androids, any Android device works. It's nothing proprietary. My little catalog here, we're not a revenue center on this. It's just, we're a reseller if you want, but really it's stuff like, Android device plus a card reader. There's kitchen equipment, right? KDS, touchscreens, all that stuff. Let me see if I have. Yeah, something like this is pretty common for a lot of our establishments. If you want to get your own fancy case on Amazon, awesome. It's very customizable. So one thing is there's hardware costs. Now we make it pretty easy with the other costs. We have no setup fee, no installation, no monthly fees of any kind for the point of sale whatsoever. Okay. So whether you have 1 or 100 terminals, whether you have 1 or 1,000 employees, whether you use every bell and whistle I talked about, the Ecommerce, the loyalty program, the advanced inventory, the contactless, $0. Always been that way, always will be that way. That's our model. So if you're wondering, well, then what is it? It's got to be credit card fees. That's correct. That is the only other thing outside hardware that you pay for with Arryve. We use a very similar approach to just about every point of sale. Interchange plus. Interchange, of course, being what Visa, MasterCard, those guys, that portion. And then we do a small markup. So we pass on the interchange and mark it up by 0.15% and 15 cents per transaction. I'm sure Jonathan will be able to send out an email for anyone that wants information, or you can contact me directly as far as the specifics. But again, just on that fee, it's basically your merchant processing credit card fees. I can tell you because I've looked at a lot of people's numbers, right? They send me their statements. We're extremely competitive. There's usually you can save money just on processing alone, not to mention how much you can save on monthly fees and other things. And again, there's no cost for support. We only hire people that worked in the industry. It's all internal. They're aces, central time. We're open until 1 a.m. in the morning, 7 days a week. I think it's 8 a.m. to 1 a.m., 7 days. And no contracts whatsoever. So people that use Arryve tend to like it. That's really what I have. So I will put a lid on it on my end unless there's questions.
I'm sure there'll be a couple questions. So why don't we